Chapter 5, Mishnah 4. This Mishnah discusses how a tchum is actually measured. It begins with the length of the measuring rope. We measure the tchum only with a 50 amma rope, measuring 50 amos at a time until we reach 2,000 amos. It may not be less than 50 amos long, because the shorter rope gets stretched and becomes longer than it's supposed to be. And it may not be more than 50 amos long, because a longer rope often sags in the middle when it's held by two people. Either way, the measurements will be inaccurate. The Mishnah describes how the measurers hold the rope. Each may measure only with the rope held against his chest, so that they both hold it at the same height and not at an angle. The Mishnah discusses how to measure ground that has dips and rises. If he was measuring and he reached a valley or a pile of stones from a collapsed fence, he measures in a way that absorbs the slopes of the valley or fence, i.e. he measures in a straight line across the top of them. If the width of the uneven ground from one side to the other is 50 amos or less, so that a 50 amma rope reaches across it, he measures directly across the top. If the width of the uneven ground varies, and directly opposite the city is wider than 50 amos, but off to one side of the city it narrows to 50 amos, then he may move from the place opposite the city where he is measuring and walk in a straight line to the place off to the side of the city, where he can use the rope to measure across the top of the uneven ground. He then continues measuring along that new line, and when he reaches a place from which he could walk back in a straight line to the even ground that is directly opposite the city, he returns to his original line of measurement and continues measuring from there. A similar case. If he reached a mountain while measuring the tchum, he measures in a way that absorbs the sides of the mountain. That is, he measures over the top of it in a straight line, just as with a pile of stones. And if the hill is such that he has to move and measure from some point that is not opposite the city, he may do so. And he then returns to his original line of measurement. However, wherever the measurer needs to move to an area that is not opposite the city, he may do so only as long as he does not go out of the tchum of the city for this purpose. The Mishnah teaches what to do if measuring the uneven ground in the way described above is impossible. If the measurer is unable to absorb the slope made by the uneven ground by using a 50 amma rope. Regarding this case, Rav Dostai bar Yanai said in the name of Rabbi Meir, I heard from my teachers that we make a hole through the mountains. That is, we measure the mountain in a way that imitates drilling a hole through the bottom from one end to the other, with a long measuring rope running through it. The length of that measurement is the distance that counts towards the tchum, and the slope of the mountain is thus not counted.